Ladies and gentlemen, to another Chopping It Up podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Wynn, aka the Eagle. My little wings. Here with me today is Caleb Modzeleski. What is going on, brother?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just chilling. Kind of got a text out of nowhere that, hey, you ready? Hopped in, ready for what? Apparently this. So this is what we're doing.
Brother, I don't like to plan. Other than Striker. Striker, you got to plan for that guy because he's a little
meticulous.
Weasel. A little bastard will disappear on you. You got to watch out for that fool. Dude, I will say I'm excited to have another good-looking cat like myself finally on the podcast. All these other ugly motherfuckers in here, I'm kidding, everybody. It's a joke. You're a young cat, man. You're I would have guessed you were a little older than what you look. Where are you from? How old you are? What do you do for a living? Give me the spiel.
Right now I'm living in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm from Rockford, small town just north of it. 26 years old. I'll be 27 in September. So 3 years to 30. Life's a third over. But yeah, no, I'm still in college. I'm getting my degree in secondary education to be a high school teacher. Hopefully coach a sport too. But in the meantime, I'm going fast and turning left.
So you like kids?
Yeah.
Not in the
Hell
wrong
yeah.
way. No, you like kids.
No, kids are fun, man. Like
you know what, man? It's just there's not a lot of dudes that are like that. In all honesty, really. I mean, how many people are like, oh, hey, man, I either want to teach kids or want to have kids of my own. There's not a fucking man on the planet that thinks like that.
See, so that's funny that you say that. So when I first started going to school, it was for physical therapy, and I took my first kinesthesiology class, and I was like, I am not built for this shit. So I switched just to a general education associates while in community college, and then I was looking at my parents, and I was looking at my dad. He's been a welder ever since he got out of the Marine Corps in the early 90s, and he's beat up, battered, and broken. And my mom, she's a vice principal. She's been teaching for 15 years, administration for 5, and she still parties like she's 19. So I figured I should probably give teaching a go. And I also do want to be a dad someday. So I feel like that's a close second, is being a teacher.
I mean, what's like the age range or the grade range that you're kind of targeting?
So like junior, senior. So like
ones that don't talk back and can wipe their own ass type of thing.
Man, you'd be surprised. No, like I don't know. I just like an almost adult mind. Like I would consider myself to be finally finished developing in the fucking brain. But yeah, I think like freshmen are a little bit too annoying for me. A little too
immature
loud.
Still.
Immature. Yeah.
It's weird that you said, you feel like your mind's developed, brother. I'm 30. Fuck, oh my God. 36, I think. I'm turning 36 this May. I mean, I still learn so much. It's weird because what were we talking about? You
Kids.
Teaching. And yeah, right. Oh, I do remember what we were talking about. Even at the age of 36, man, dude, I feel like when I was the same way you were. 30s, quarter of your life's gone. You're just that close to death. You feel like you're like, fuck, man, I ain't accomplished nothing yet. And I feel like I've learned more in my 30s than I ever have in my entire life. And I think it's solely based off maturity.
Yeah. It's more or less like kind of COVID screwed a lot up. Not because I was too scared to get the shot to keep going to school, because all the universities in Michigan mandated immediately that you couldn't enroll unless you were vaccinated. But it wasn't that. It was the fact that they were going to do all the classes online anyways, and I didn't want to just sit and stare at a screen for my classes and not actually get like that in-classroom learning experience. So I just stopped going to school for 2 years before the colleges finally started opening back up. In between that, I just worked a few odd jobs, see if I could find something I liked, and nothing really was very fulfilling. So when I went back to school, switched major to education.
That's that's cool, man. What do you plan on teaching?
So so I want to teach history, but instead of getting a history degree, I got a group social studies degree. So it's like a history major with a civics minor built into it. So I can teach geography, anthropology, ethnography, uh, like economics, just pretty much everything under the social studies umbrella. And that was just so that I could get a job in the school district that I want because there's not that many history positions open. So maybe if I could teach like a geography class in the school district I want to be at and eventually transfer over to a history teacher when the spot opens up, or if I can make my own like elective style class.
Okay, sexist question.
Absolutely.
Why do you think majority of the history teachers and math teachers are male, and majority of like English teachers are female?
Ooh.
Tell because you can't say I'm wrong because I'm right.
Yeah, no, I mean
You really think about it. You're like,
I've,
damn, man.
all of my history professors have been male. Um, my math, my math teachers have been male, and yeah, no, my English speech. I had
Home
a
ec,
photography class.
photography, yeah, all female dominant.
Yeah, that's funny. I have no idea. I mean, I think
Do you think it's because women can't read a map?
that's hilarious. No, I don't because my so in school I have to take specialized classes like how to be a teacher type classes, and one of them, this is like like you can only get this in Michigan right now. It's a data literacy, uh, not a certification, but it's just all data literacy stuff, like how to read data logically and portray it without any sort of like bias in it and stuff like that. It's the textbook is like this thick, and the professor wrote the textbook, so we read everything she writes, and she's constantly correcting us on how to read maps all the time. So
That's awesome.
yeah, Dr. Schreiner is her name. She's in a lot of like non-government organizations geared towards education in the state and stuff like that.
You know, I've always I've always found it weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's I don't know if it's not, all
Here,
jokes aside.
I actually have at least on the history side,
Okay,
um, because I think generally men are way more interested in like battles and wars and stuff like that. And then to truly understand wars, you got to learn like the political like history and like the way people lived there at that time to really get an understanding of how the wars were fought and why they were fought. And yeah, I think it's because men like learning about war.
so you think women typically don't do history because history is more like shit that men's into?
Yeah, I just think like the popular topics of history is what gets men into it.
I agree. Dude, I honest to God, I would agree with it because if I think back to my college days, um, like I was like 3 credits away from minoring in psychology, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Didn't even know it. So I was like, why not? And all my my teachers there were all female for psychology, and I mean most of them for like languages, and it's weird. It's weird how even in the school district it can be divided to the point to where like the women typically do this, men typically do that. I
Hmm.
know, back in the day for like high school for PE, if there were 2 teachers, they were required to have one male, one female, you know,
Yeah.
to avoid issues like that. Hmm. Where's any country you can go to? Where are you going?
Ooh. Um. Probably Germany, just because I studied the language and learned it for 5 6 years. Which is the only reason I took German is because they didn't offer Polish, but honestly, if I were smart, I would have taken Spanish, because
It's
what good is
dominant.
learning German for, all the millions of Germans sneaking across the northern border?
Dude, I live. Honest God, I live in Florida, and I mean, Spanish is the most dominant language
Mhm.
in the world. Um, like I met a lady for the first time from Argentina, and I didn't even know Spanish was like their mother tongue.
Yeah,
So I mean, everywhere speaks Spanish. Chile even speaks Spanish. I would never knew Chile spoke Spanish. But
right. Yeah,
Germany, man, that's just like America number two.
pretty much. Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's some things about like Germans like civil society that I think is a lot more fun than here. Like drinking in the streets and day drinking and stuff like that is a perfectly normal thing. And I think that should be allowed everywhere.
I'm gonna be straight with you, brother. I see you less of a man for your answer not being Holland. I'm just saying. And I think you know why.
Yeah, we can think about that.
Here's the best part, dude. Here's the best part. How many people you think's gonna listen to this and be like, I don't get it?
All of them.
And they're gonna look up and they're gonna be like,
Mhm.
oh, I get it now. It might not be your cup of tea, but I bet you goddamn Skippy, if you're standing toe to toe, it's gonna be your cup of tea.
Yeah,
Well,
you're probably right.
what's really cool. I mean, even Holland, Switzerland. I mean, all those two countries, they teach their people how to defend themselves, which is
Hmm.
super cool because they have super low crime rates. And I mean, it's like why do you think like the United States just can't take lessons on successful countries like those two? And bits and pieces all over the world and just implement them here. I mean, it's supposed to be a democracy.
It's because I mean, the nation's too big, man. That's too many people to represent with one ideology, right?
Right.
Either, uh, honestly, you just got to give the states more power to run things how they want to, and I think that would make a lot of people way more happy. You can have the very left states running it as left as they want. You can have the right states running it as right as they want, and obviously, you still need the federal government to make sure that nothing crazy happens, like child labor and shit like that again. But besides things like those, that they
How
need to leave it up to the states to figure that kind of shit out.
you're okay. So, and this is kind of like your expertise in your field, anyway. So you're going to know even more than me. And I like to think that I'm an intelligent person, but I've explained it to several people that didn't quite get that point. How do you explain to somebody, especially a young mind, that the roles between government and state, like how they're supposed to be versus how they are?
Right. So the states are by right sovereign to make most of their own decisions, like things with like taxing and property rights and shit like that. Um, and the federal government was originally put in place just to keep the states in check to make sure that they weren't having any too radical ideas on how to run things. And eventually, through bipartisanship, you have two dominant parties that uh, are basically reciprocated on all policies. So people just turn into like it just turns into a free for all on who's more popular, and yeah, it's just too much representation of two ideas, and there's not enough like other options in the room. And I think a lot of that has to a lot of our issues as a nation has a lot to do with our party system and how influenced they are by uh, non-governmental organizations and lobbyists, right? So really, it's just only the rich citizens that you get to hear.
I like to When I explain it to most people, I like to explain it as like the government's mom and dad, and all
Yeah.
and all the states are the children, right?
Hmm.
And I wouldn't say children. I would say they're the children of mom and dad, but they're young adult children that can make their own decisions.
Yeah.
And that when those kids, so those two states or three states, they're not getting along, is when mom and dad step in and they make the final verdict.
Right.
Um, which obviously is not like that at all in any way, shape, or form. It's more of a dictatorship in that aspect when it's like the government's like, this is how it is. You states need to fall in line, or we're not going to help you out, or we're going to punish you in whatever weird way,
Mm.
um, and then go from there. Like a good example would be like marijuana, and the states, it's still federally illegal,
Yeah. Hmm.
and they could definitely come down to Colorado and just start arresting every store owner, anybody that has it in possession, if they want to. I mean, um, Tommy Chong, from Cheech and Chong.
Oh yeah, he got
He,
arrested.
yeah, he's been raided multiple times in California, even though California legalized it. So I mean, that's just a
Mm.
good example. And they did it for money, obviously.
You want to hear something? So Michigan's one of the, I think, what, there's like 20 or 30 states that have it legalized, and maybe 12 or 15 of them have it for recreation.
Yeah.
It just got recreationally legal in Michigan, I think, 3 years ago. And the tax revenue that marijuana got in the state of Michigan, usually, like, when you're in school, like, students, they have to pay for their hot lunches, right? If they're Section 8, then they can eat for free, like if their
Right.
parents
Yep.
make a certain amount of, yeah. So the income that the state got for marijuana sales, they just paid for all school lunches. So now you don't even need to be Section 8. So like even like struggling middle class families can still like trust that their kids are going to be able to eat every day and not have to worry about some ridiculous bill at the end of the month just for their kid going to school.
How I mean, how sweet is that? That a gateway drug, in quotations, which was everything to be bad in the world, is something that's literally doing so much good and feeding children. Within this, I mean, dude, that's, I don't know if California or Colorado does that. This is the first I'm hearing of it, but I mean, that's so neat that
Mm.
Michigan as a state decided this is what we're going to do with these extra funds. I mean, that's just
They need
I
to set some aside for the roads.
yeah, Southern Michigan for sure, dude. You'll rattle your steering wheel off heading up
Mm.
north there. That's that, dude. That is that is cool. I would have never known that. I Florida's voting for recreational use this November.
Okay.
It'll be on the ballot. So I think it'll pass in Florida. It's just
Mm.
the population's there now, which I already have a card, so it
Yeah,
helps
there you
me
go.
sleep. What
Makes me want to eat.
yeah, it does that to me too. You were talking about, the tax aspect of it, and you teaching, are you able to dabble in, you know, history and the economics of history with, like, government taxing and
Mm.
the financial side of that at all?
Yeah. Yeah, especially if I'm doing like a not Bill of Rights. Holy shit.
I remember that video.
Oh no.
Uh,
Like if you're teaching like the Constitution and
yeah.
stuff, because the tax code has its base, not the current tax code, but taxation has its basis in the Constitution. So like if I'm teaching a constitutional American history class, then yeah, we would delve into a lot of those things.
Does
Um,
it? Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Does it irritate you knowing what you know? I mean, because obviously you have to know history if you're going to teach this shit.
Right.
Because it irritates me, and I'm not a teacher. Like, government taxing, just so anybody that doesn't know, was implemented during World War I, World War II
Mm.
to fund our troops, weapons, all that stuff. They implemented it. They were going to tax the people to fund all these wars, take care of our guys overseas, and then it was supposed to go away. That's where that's the it didn't go away. They're like, oh, this is a cash cow. We're going to keep using it, and that's what it's been ever since. Just that. I mean, and I'm sure there's more stuff that that I don't even. I mean, does that just not grind your gears, knowing that you have to pass on this knowledge to the younger generation, saying like, hey, man, I didn't screw this country up, but our ancestors have. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's so like Yeah, I mean the I consider the 50s and 60s be a pretty dark era in the history of the United States. Like our federal government has done so many so many horrific things to so many people. Not just people, I mean like their citizens, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess when you're in the classroom, it's hard to. It's not possible. You can't separate your opinions and your biases from what you're teaching, and that's something that I would definitely make clear to my students that you even got to check me when I'm giving you information and making sure that you're doing as much research as you can because everybody has their viewpoint on how things are supposed to be. Um, but yeah, but you gotta separate like your ideologies when you're in the classroom, right? Because it's got to be an open-minded setting.
Right.
And really, I want it to like my goal in teaching isn't so all these kids can like regurgitate information back on a test. Really, it's so they know how to look for good information and create like meaningful constructed theses on how the world works, right? Like so that they can understand their world better. It's not just so that they can remember names and dates and stuff like that.
Do you? So my wife's also into education, much younger. She's doing the pre-K stuff right
Oh,
now.
okay, that's cool.
Not that she can't teach, actually growing minds, but it's just a
Mhm.
situation where daycare is expensive, and by her,
Yeah.
and no, in all seriousness, and by her working there, I don't pay daycare
Hmm.
because it's a pre-K deal there. Anyways, our education system's failing us as a whole because there's it's the best way to put it. I think they'll hire anybody. And I think the reason for that is because there's a shortage, and the reason for the shortage is because of the salary. I mean, I think it's all. I mean, you look at a college professor versus a high school teacher, and you're like, your jaw will drop.
Yeah.
Um, that I don't think it needs to be a fair. It needs to be this is fair or unfair, but I think high school especially should be some of the highest paid teachers because it's such a crucial part of kids' minds. Um, with all that being said, how do you how do you I know you don't want them to regurgitate the information but how do you get it to where when they step out of the classroom and they're, let's just say, the credit card offers start rolling in,
Hmm.
or a poll to do a mail-in ballot, whatever it could be, like, how do you get that stuff to stick with them to be like, hey man, I know what's going on, and because it's your job to arm these kids for life,
Right.
because life
Yeah.
ain't easy.
No, it's not. I've been broke my whole life, man. I get it.
Right.
Like I think that has a lot to do with school districts not having control over their board, and the board always removing meaningful classes. Like middle school, I had wood shop, right, and then even in middle school, I had life skills classes, like teaching kids just how to do simple things like cook for themselves. And when I got to high school, we had a financing class where they taught you how to, balance checkbooks and shit like that. Um, and shortly after I graduated, all of those things have been starting to get removed. And there's just such a focus on the liberal arts, which is awesome. But I think they've kind of forgotten all of the other skills that a lot of these kids need to learn, and some of these kids that want to learn those things. Like, you know how hard it is to get into a blue collar field at 20 with no skills like whatsoever. Like, sure, you could spend 2 3 years as a gopher, but if you're able to like work in the wood shop or do some welding classes and stuff like that beforehand while in high school, it's gonna like put you so far ahead of everybody else. um and obviously like just preparing for life, like how to balance a budget, how to live within your means. I would like to say like a lot of those things rely on the parents too, to not just just assume that their kids are getting everything they need out of school, right?
Right.
But as far as what can the schools do, it's not. It's to bring back those life skills classes, and all these tech classes that we're losing all the time.
That was actually going to be my next question to you. You being in college, what do you, where do you stand versus college versus trade school? Because I'll be honest with you, man. College is a joke anymore. It really
It's a
is.
scam.
It is. But certain fields, you
Mhm.
don't have a choice.
Right.
Nurses, teachers, lawyers. I mean, stuff like that. That I would consider is a skilled trade in the college system
Mhm.
versus a skilled trade that could be done in the private sector as a school.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously you said it's a scam. What I mean, how do you? I mean, can you educate these kids on just being like, hey, when you get older, and you're looking at what you want to do with your life, these are some things, you might, over the course of history, this is how
Mhm.
it's changed and this is how you need to adapt towards it.
Yeah. So obviously, it's so subject based on whether you want a kid to go to college or go to a trade school or not. One, if your family is well off and they can afford for you to go to college, just go, right? Like get that experience in. If you like it, great, stay. If you don't, move on to something else. But um like for kids that were kind of like in my situation, your family's not poor, but they can't just send you to any school you want. So you got to kind of, go to community college, maybe work some manual labor jobs and figure shit out. Um, yeah, I don't know. It has a lot more to do with the person and whether or not they will be like fulfilled, right? Doing work that requires higher education compared to something with your hands. Like my younger brother, he worked in HVAC. Now he's welding and powder coating. He went to community college for 2 semesters and dropped it immediately because just the classroom setting's not for him. And I mean, that kid, he's pulling in way more money than me, and he's rebuilding a race car and doing whatever the heck he wants to do. So if you're looking at it from like a money standpoint, uh, yeah, unless you're getting some sort of medical degree or engineering, stay away from college. All that liberal arts stuff you can learn on YouTube, you know, and that's just how I kind of view it.
Well, I mean, the sole purpose of working is to make money. I
Right.
mean, obviously, I mean, honest to God, whether you like kids, you don't like kids, that's your passion, that's what you want to do. I would say that there's maybe 3% of the population that if they had $1 billion in the bank account, they would still do that stuff even for free. I think
Hmm.
most of everybody would, go off and do whatever they want to do, but none they wouldn't work or they'd own
Right.
their own business or something.
100%. Working, nobody wants to work.
No, right. So I mean, it's I'm I have a lot of relatives. I think a lot of people have a lot of relatives in the nursing field. It's such a vast field,
Mhm.
and I could. It takes it takes a certain breed of person to do that, and the same goes for teaching. It takes a special breed of person. The funny thing that I find out about even talking to you is like you didn't even know you wanted to do this to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, what was the triggering point of your like, dude, this is my calling. This is what I want.
Um, I guess so. In high school, I was a part of a program where we worked with the special needs students in the wood shop, and like we were pretty much student teachers, right? Like the teacher would just kind of let us work one on one with these kids. We were building things, uh, making sheds and tabletops and all that fun stuff, and it was just a lot of fun, like being in that situation where someone's like looking up to you to learn from you, and that was a very fulfilling thing to do. And that's when a bug kind of got into my head that maybe teaching be a good idea. I mean, also I've done some like simple coaching things like baseball, like youth baseball camps and stuff like that, and just it's just a fun thing to do. And if I can get paid to do it, I mean, even if it's not that much, if I can still live comfortably and do something like that, I feel like I could have a pretty fulfilling life.
Well, I think the whole living comfortably thing's a stretch statement right now.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean,
Yeah, I know. Gas is almost $4 again.
yeah, it's. I mean, it is what it is. Um, that's this is a, I, this is an interesting conversation.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
know. I
expect
was
this
expecting to
conversation to
talk
go like
about
this.
turning left.
I mean, we're going to work on that too.
All right.
Where? So you're up in Michigan. You're in college.
Mhm.
26, right?
Yep.
27.
26.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, are you in a dorm? You got your own place? You at your
I
parents' house?
I'm actually living with I'm rooming with one of my best friends from high school and his girlfriend. I moved out of my parents, so I moved to a different town for like a year. Came back to my parents for a few months, and then this will be my second year here living with them. Yeah, he's one of my best friends from high school. Played football, wrestled. I've known his girlfriend since middle school, so it's been
So
pretty fun.
super comfortable around
Oh
all
yeah,
you guys
like
are. So it's
it's
real
like being
easy.
around family. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and a lot of times, it's one. It's like meeting a chick for the first time. It's like, oh man, she's the one. It's like live with her first.
Right.
You'll you'll
Yeah,
learn.
right.
If you could put up with her then, or she could put up with you then you know.
Those two are so entertaining, man. They're hilarious to watch as a couple. They're actually really weird, right? Like they never they never really like argue. They don't fight, like when one of them pisses each other off, they just like stay separated for 10, 15 minutes and then it's fine. Like they're such a like a I don't know, they're such a laid back couple and they're super comfortable with each other. I mean, they've been together like 6 years, so
Yeah, so
it's
they're
like
probably
nothing.
gonna be together for a
Oh
long
yeah, that
time now.
she already tells him even though he can't afford a ring, he's stuck. Like she's not doing what's your favorite color over again.
Yeah,
So
dude, that's a good woman. I mean, like,
mm,
especially like the way I would base it is if you're married and because the root of all evil is money. And that's what
yeah.
nine times out of 10 what couples fight about. If you don't fight about money and you bicker just about stupid shit,
Mhm.
that's probably a good relationship. I mean, in all honesty, because you're going to bicker, you're going to
Yeah.
go through tribulations. I mean, you're going to deal with a lot of like I want to choke my wife out regularly, but she's my best friend, and I don't even half the time I can look at her and smile and she'll know exactly what I'm getting at. How stupid is that,
Yeah.
bro?
That's so fun.
So I mean, dude, it's once you get rolling out in the dating world,
Oh, I'll trick one to stay with me eventually.
just be like,
I
listen, I like kids. You
Yeah,
want
man,
those?
I wish that worked better.
Really?
Well, girls in their early 20s don't want to even think about settling down yet. So
They're they're
yeah.
they're way dumber than they were.
I think so too, man. I wish I was
I
born
mean,
10 years ago. 10
it's
years
I'm
later.
not even going to say just women, men. I mean,
Oh, man,
your generation
that
is
we
just
suck.
yeah, man.
We
Like I hate
suck.
it's so I would I'm trying to say it the right way. Like talking to somebody your age doesn't normally go like this because most of their minds are just they're
Yeah.
in gaga land and they're like, man, I'm a man but I identify as a woman. Shut the fuck up with that crap. I don't want to hear it. No one else wants to hear it. If my kids ever go to school and I don't care about like gay flags and shit. But like, if you start preaching to my kid about, oh, you could be a girl if that's how you feel, like I'm a
Yeah,
different generation.
there's a lot of yeah, that oh man. That's another like 2-hour conversation in itself is that stuff. But
Well,
that's
so
probably
like you were saying though, it's hard for you not to like push. I wouldn't say push. That's a harsh word,
hmm,
but state your opinion in the classroom while you're teaching something versus pushing it.
hmm,
Like which is completely wrong in
yeah.
every notion that you can look at it. So, I mean, talking to you, I'd assume like you would fall under like the Republican side of things.
Uh Now, yeah.
I,
For the most part, yeah.
compared to what it used to be, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
definitely,
changed.
yeah.
Um, yeah, they went They
Yeah, no,
say the
10 years
far
ago.
leftist. There's a reason they say the far leftist.
Yeah, I was gonna say 10 years ago, like my views haven't changed, but 10 years ago I'd have been a Democrat.
Right. Oh, well, and I would have
You
been
know what I
too.
mean? Like
Like
it's just so everything's just so like extreme either way now that it don't really
you
fucking
can't win.
matter. No.
You can't win. You can't win. Well, and the Trump's made a lot of promises if he gets reelected, and like one of them is he's going to push term limits for Congress, which is
Hmm.
what needs to happen. I don't care what side you're on; it has to happen.
Oh,
Can't
I
have the same
agree. Yeah.
people in there for that long. You
No.
just can't.
And
Anyways,
if they're gonna have a minimum age, they got to put a maximum age on that too. We can't have fucking 85, 90-year olds still making decisions for us, man.
exactly. It's just and it's like, I mean, how there's more young. Like, what's the average age? 31 in the country right now, or something
Yeah.
like that. It's like
So many young people right
an
now.
89-year-old has no idea what I do day to day.
Right.
Like, buddy, I'm not working till sundown and coming home and plowing a field or whatever his ideology is.
Whatever
I
they
mean,
were doing.
Biden never worked a day in his life, but you get what I'm saying.
He was a segregationist.
Yeah, that guy. Dude, here's what I don't understand. I don't want to get too political, but
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
just going to spit it out. Here's a perfect question, because there's videos. They're not AI videos. You can't fake these videos. But there are videos of somebody saying something, and then he goes on national television, says, "I've never said that before," and people believe it. Explain that to me, because I can't wrap my head around it.
Just blind bias, not really giving a shit, and people are really emotional and tend to think with their emotions more than their brain. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. Um, I mean, it's both sides, right? But
Yeah.
it's people don't want to do their own research. They want to be told what they want to hear, and that's it. They don't want to hear the other side and make their own educated decisions, right? But yeah, it's just that hive mind mentality, man. Too many people,
Well,
like one person screams loud enough, everybody believes it.
Well, and I think that's kind of what they were going for to begin
Mm,
with, and they
yeah.
got exactly what they want. All right, push it forward. You want to be a teacher. You're living. You're a roommate with your best friend and his old lady.
Mm.
Why iRacing?
uh, I got bored. I mean, I grew up in the racing scene. Like, I didn't grow up in the scene. My dad raced when I was little. He raced until I was like 7, 8 years old. And then my younger brother Matthew, he's been tagging along with my dad ever since he stopped racing pit crewing. Since he was like 12 years old, and then I think 2 or 3 years ago, I see him messing around with a really cheap like Chinese steering wheel and plastic pedals, and I see a car going around a track. I'm like, what's that? He goes, it's iRacing. So yeah, my younger brother got me into iRacing, and it has been a poor financial investment, but it's been a lot of fun.
Is it something you could see yourself doing in the long run?
As a hobby or as something that, yeah, as a hobby,
Whatever. I
easily,
mean,
yeah.
let's just say for argument's sake, you get married 10 years from now,
Oh,
and
I'll still be, yeah,
say iRacing's still around. I mean, are you going to have a rig somewhere in your crib?
100%,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's just it's something. It's nice to just let off some steam on. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And obviously, if you get to where you're doing it that long, I'm sure the expenses are going to keep racking up, because you're always wanting something bigger, something better. For the most part, obviously, you got to make smart financial decisions, which I have not.
Me neither.
But I do enjoy my time in the rig. I mean, I'm in this thing quite a bit. I do. Yeah, it's still a computer, folks. You
Hmm.
could still do anything and everything you want to file your taxes. You can sit in your rig and file your taxes. Just saying.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, whether it's iRacing or gaming in general, I'll probably die a gamer. Like I grew up, like that's my era is the PlayStation 2, Nintendo 64, like all those cool consoles from back in the day, so I'll probably be gaming until I die.
Dude, you can't tell me the 64 wasn't the coolest.
Oh, dude, Star Fox, that was my shit, man. So that was the first game I ever played was Star Fox 64 in daycare. That was so much fucking fun.
007 GoldenEye, man. I
We
couldn't
had
get
that too.
enough. And then, obviously you had to have Mario Kart
Hmm.
parties with your buddies.
All that
It's
stuff.
hands down, I think it was probably the best system ever made for that generation
Hmm.
because it offered not two players but four, and
Four.
that's what made it so unique.
Yeah, we would do
Plus, it's
like,
Nintendo.
yeah, yeah, like Super Smash Brothers with four
Yeah.
players is always a blast, man. Game was so fun.
Where what's your rig like? It looks like one folds up and whatnot. What do you
Yeah,
use?
it's I think it's the F1 GT next level racing foldable rig. Um,
Wheels,
it's
pedals.
Yeah, and then I got the Thrustmaster T248 wheel. Got rid of the pedals that came with it for some uh, Fanatec CSL with the load cell brake. Um, this foldable cockpit is nice, but it was definitely made for people that were 5'10" and under. My legs are a little long for this, so definitely need to change this out eventually.
I'm like 5'11", so I'd still my fat ass still fit in there. That's you plan on going like a full setup when the
Yeah,
time comes?
probably do the 5 Newton meter direct drive wheel and all that fun shit. But that's something I'll probably save until because I graduate in 3 semesters, so that's something I'll save when I actually have a stable salary income and can put some money aside for it instead of just impulse buying it like I did last time.
Well, I mean, my biggest worry is it's going to go away. I don't think it will, but it could. And I mean, if you don't have a market
Yeah.
for it anymore, you don't have a market for it anymore. But I do think somebody would swoop in and like, oh, you're going to get rid of this. Well, Gran Turismo they'll adopt 90% of the
Yeah.
stuff or whatever. So.
I don't see iRacing go away just because of like at least like maybe they would come out with something newer, right? Uh, but just the fact that the simulator is so like it actually like is productive in the real world, right? Like you can actually, you know, set cars up to the minute like weight distribution and spring and shock setups and stuff like that to where it translates somewhat in real life. So I don't see this kind of it's niche, but I don't see it going away anytime soon.
I mean, I don't think it will, but I'm just saying there's always that
Yeah,
possibility.
yeah, that's all right. Always
Let's
something new to play.
yeah, and I mean let's keep going forward with the sim racing stuff
Oh yeah.
because you don't race chop shop what I would consider full time.
No.
How did you find Chop and why aren't you full time?
So I found Chop. So I think I've been in the league for about a year, maybe a little less. Um, I pretty like so got into iRacing and just rode around the back to get my A license as fast as possible so I could drive in the Cup car, even though I dislike that car the most. Uh, and then I can't remember if I was racing against some. Yeah, I was racing against someone who was in the Chop League. I can't remember their name because it's been a year, but they said, "Hey, come join our league and test something out." We run on Friday nights, and it was Thursday. I'm like, "Sure, whatever. I'll come by, see how it goes." And I think the first race that I did was Vegas in the Cup car. I think Nathan Alul was the champion of that season, and I was wrecked out in the 7th lap or some shit and left the server and gave it another 2 weeks before I finally tried it again. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of, with school, I just don't have the time because I can never guess how much time I'm going to be spending outside of the classroom writing papers and shit like that.
Right.
So I just race when I can.
So you're responsible, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I try to be.
um, well, and I mean, You've raced other leagues though too, right?
Yeah, so I'm can I say what they are on here?
That's fine.
Yeah.
My
So
podcast.
yeah, fuck it, right? Um so I'm in Ghost, but I run there part-time too. That's a cup league. Um and then I'm in the American Sim Racing Club for their super late model series, and then I race super late models here, and I think I'm signed up and paid for the Dirt League, but I've yet to make an appearance there, and I was hoping to soon.
Oh, and I mean, if you're busy, you're busy.
Yeah.
Um, do you see gaps in the skills between each league? Like you're like, oh man, I know if I come here, I probably ain't gonna have a chance to be up front, or if I come over here, I'm gonna dominate.
Yeah. I'm not gonna name the
That's
league that
fine.
immediately came to mind that I think I would dominate at all the time if I was there. I'm sure that everybody listening to this knows exactly who I'm thinking of. But here the skill gap here is actually perfect. It's perfect to the where point you have like, you know, obviously you're gonna have your one or two fast guys that are always the shoe in that you just gotta upset to take the win from. But you got like five guys up front that are all kind of battling. You got another 6 to 7 guys in the mid pack battling, then you got another five guys even further back from them battling, right? Everybody gets their racing in and everybody gets better. Like I was such a shit sim racer when I first joined. And this league has been perfect for like just learning and getting up to speed. I'm not any, I mean, there's not, I don't know. I would say on average, I'm like the fifth to seventh quickest car every single time I'm here. Obviously, there's some tracks like Dover that I run really good at. And then there's some tracks where I'm like 2 seconds off the pace. But just being able to hone those skills has been super helpful for other leagues and having more success elsewhere.
Do you think a driver? Do you think somebody that's like really good that would come over here and let's just say for argument's sake they had to start in the back? Do you think it's good for somebody with that much experience to still work around guys with less experience just to kind of sharpen those skills more, maybe work on their patience?
Yeah, especially patience. I think the egos. I'm so for reference, I'm sitting around 2,000 I rating. I hover between 2,400 and 1,800, depending on if I get wrecked out or whatever. But so I get to race in both the top and the mid and the bottom splits in every single official series I do. And what I've noticed from the top splits is that they're no faster than the guys hovering around the 2,000 I rating. They just have way more ego and don't care about their safety rating, right? They just wreck people for position, and that's when I just finally realized that I rating doesn't fucking matter, and it's really based like uh, so I guess that depends. So to answer your question, it depends on what are your goals as a racer. Do you want to be a good driver, or do you just want to keep finishing first?
Well, I mean, it's called racing, so
Right. So therefore, if you finish first, you're a good driver. Yeah, I guess. But I'm not saying don't race each other, like don't bump and move each other out of the way to gain position, but to just drive through people just because they're slow instead of setting up a pass on them to go around them. Yeah, no, I think it's still helpful, even for guys that have a lot more skill than others, to start from the back and work their way through just to keep those skills that they haven't practiced in a while, like dodging people that don't have any idea what they're doing.
right. Well, and I think when you run somebody hard, not only it might give you a bad look to begin with, but
Hmm.
it teaches guys like like up front. I've raced side by side with you a few times,
Hmm.
to where we would slap doors and we'd keep going, and 9 times out of 10 you get the best of me, but we're butting and banging all through the corner side by side. No one's spinning out.
Right.
We're having fun.
Oh yeah.
Like we're having the time of our life. And I think for like guys with less seat time, I ain't even gonna say skill because I mean
Right. It's yeah.
it's not a skill based thing. I think it's just a like Striker would say, seat time
Hmm.
is like the more you run them like that, the more they understand what to expect and how maybe they can run a little bit harder,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And honestly, like the fastest way to learn to be fast is to follow the fast guys, anyways. Right? Like you're learning their lines when they're braking, and figuring out things that you're doing wrong. Like I've always been a guy that puts way too much wheel center of the corner, and I never really noticed I was doing that until I started watching, YouTube videos and even some of the like the past live streams of our races where I'm looking at like Biggert and he's like barely moving his wheel on entry, but when you go look at me, I already got the thing cocked 50 degrees to the left.
Ton of understeer.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm in that same boat right now. I'm still trying to figure out how to make the car turn without turning the car. That ideology, that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
That's something that I actually finally learned in racing, like the sim racing, the super late models. Because if you try to turn the car with the wheel, you just spin. You have to turn it with the brake. You can't turn the car with anything else.
Maybe I'm not braking enough.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the way I'm not a hot lapper, but I usually finish well in races because I'm not so hard on entry. I'm not saying go in slow, but when you're letting off the throttle, don't wait until you're about to brake, let off the throttle, roll, then brake, right?
Right. I kind of want to veer a little bit in left field because I've been thinking about how asking this question. I want to set this question up because I've never asked it to anybody yet. So you're the first.
All right.
And it's probably not as easy to answer. I'm hoping it's not super easy to answer. That would suck. If you just come out and you're like, blah, I'll be like, damn. Didn't even think of that. Now that I'm thinking, I might have forgot what I was going to say. It must not have been that goddamn important.
If it is, it'll come back to you.
That's true. I had a good question set up too, folks. God damn it. That sucks.
Was it racing related at all? You said it was out of left field.
I mean, it wasn't, but it wasn't like on the topic that we were talking about at the current time.
Well, let's narrow it down. Like what? Like favorite car, favorite track?
No. It wasn't. Man, dude, that's going to irritate the hell out of me now that I can't. I mean, it had to tie in somewhere, right? I wouldn't just ask a random ass question of like, oh, hey, man, what's your favorite color? Because I'll tell you one thing, no one cares.
No, nobody gives a shit.
Oh, here's the question I had. I do remember it now. So obviously in the league, since I've been here, I started the podcast thing up.
Yep.
You're here part-time. I wouldn't say there's even a ton of people that even know who the hell you are for the most part, except for the guys that's been around for a minute. Why'd you even want to do the podcast? That's a damn good question, wasn't it?
Yeah. You want a damn quick answer?
Oh, dude, don't ruin my build up like that.
So when you first asked when does anybody want to do a podcast, I'm starting one. I was actually running pretty consistently here. I think it was when we were still doing the Xfinity series on Sundays, and I finished like 4th or 5th in the playoffs for that. And at first I thought, oh, maybe he wants to, talk to all the guys that just finished up their season, talk racing the whole time. And then after I saw the first episode, I was like, oh, it's not just a racing podcast. He's trying to learn about these people's lives too.
Yeah.
And so after I threw my name in and then like looked at what you were actually doing in the podcast, at first I was like, I don't know if I really want to do this anyways. But the long story short, I just never took my name out, and here we are.
Yeah, well, I always look at it as like some people sign up because they have some sort of prerogative of what they have something to say that they want people to hear, right? And like I said, you're the first person I've ever asked. Obviously, Hammond's was the very first one. We all know why Hammond didn't have a choice. Stryker doesn't have a choice. Those two cats don't have a choice. Odell, I had to fight Odell to get him to do it.
Oh, I bet. He's a
lot
dick.
Right. Jason, Jason with Signature Esports. It wasn't. I mean, that was a no brainer. That's free advertisement on his part. If there was any other reason for it, that would be the best one, anyways.
Right.
Nathan Biggert, everybody wanted to hear, because he wins a lot.
He's so
And
good.
then, right. So we always have. I like mixing it up because I got Nate and I got Alex Thompson. So you get to see, a guy that doesn't know much but races in real life versus a guy that raced in real life but went through some family shit or some personal shit. I guess the best way to explain it, to where he is now. So I never ask it, and I probably should, because I'm sure those answers are going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody has their own agenda on why they would want to talk, but yeah, for me, it was more of just it'd be fun to just have the conversation.
Right. Well, and I mean, why not? What do you got to lose? I mean,
nothing.
Exactly. And, it's funny. Sitting here talking to you, you always have a manifested version of somebody built up in your head when you just talk to them in Discord.
Right.
And then when you finally sit down, you see them face to face and you have a conversation that's not just shooting the shit and talking crap on one another. You start realizing who this person is. And I had you pegged completely wrong, because you could be an annoying bastard at times.
That's the ADHD, man. I ain't gonna lie, dude. I get so how do I explain this, man? So I know I'm annoying because I don't shut the fuck up, right? And it has a lot to do with I hate silence. Awkward silence sucks. So when you got 8 dudes in a Discord and no one's saying shit, I just start letting loose anything off the wall. But I also and I'm like, my mother's like that, right? She's a huge people person, and then my dad hates people. He can't stand being around people. Like if he gets too close to the city, he like breaks out in hives, right? I'm like him in that aspect too. I hate people, but I'm such a good people person. People like talking to me, and it really sucks.
Dude, I'm in the same boat. I'm in sales.
Yeah, and you do a podcast.
And I do a podcast. Well, it's just like, like I've said to other people, I always joke around like, man, I'm the talent, Striker's the
yeah,
the workhorse, and John's the brains type of thing, just I'm messing around. But it's weird because when you're good at something, you're good at something. I've never had. I hate people. I don't want to talk to people, but I'm really good at as a public speaker. I can't tell you how many times I've had a microphone in my hand at a wedding reception.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's, everybody's like, oh man, you're funny off the cuff. You should go do stand up. I haven't done that yet, but I've sat down and I've thought about it.
That'd be pretty fun.
It would.
I don't know if I could do stand up.
I want to do improv though.
Improv would be cool. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Why
See,
not?
I'm funny on accident, right? I don't try to be funny. I just say stupid shit.
Right.
So when I try to be funny, I just sound even dumber.
It's even worse. Yeah. This is coming from an educated man that's going to be educating your kids. I mean,
yeah, look out.
No, I mean, it's, like we're saying though, it's, you got to be able to light switch it too. You got to be able to come in here, wind down, go into the class and be the same person, but on a serious note.
Oh, and yeah.
Then I think in your situation, especially nowadays, unfortunately, that teachers are so scrutinized on their personal lives because everything's on social media now. You got to be really fucking careful on what you say and what you do outside the classroom, because they'll use it against you.
Yeah, I'm not even a teacher yet, and in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, all right, how do I answer every single one of these questions?
Well, I mean, it's going to be on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
It's and obviously, if for whatever reason you ever came and you're like, dude, can you guys just take that down? We would do it in a second.
I have to delete my Facebook and make a new one before I get a teaching job. Now that I think about it, I got a lot of dumb shit out there.
You want to hear one of the most wildest stories you'll ever hear?
Absolutely.
So Iowa and Iowa State is a huge rivalry in the Big Ten. And Iowa was at Iowa State, and there was a kid, because they always have the pregame deal at
Hmm.
the desk or where. But there's a kid with a sign in the back says, "Need money for more Bush lattes," and left his Venmo down there. His name's Carson King.
Hmm.
Anybody can look this up. It's 100% true, because it's weird at first and it gets way worse. So he ended up getting people just Venmoing him across the country. I think within like 20 minutes, he had over $100,000.
Jesus, man.
It spiraled out of control, right? So what's this kid that's in college do? A guy your age.
Hmm.
He go at the University of Iowa. They always wave because it's right outside the Children's Hospital, which is one
Right.
of the best children's hospitals in the country. So it's a big deal. He said, since it was Iowa versus Iowa State, he was going to keep whatever for his beer, which was almost nothing, like $100, and he was going to donate the rest to the University of Iowa's Children's Hospital.
Right.
With that, when he said that, Bush Light, or Anheuser-Busch at the time, says whatever you donate to him, we'll match it.
Hmm.
$3 million in like 3 months. Right? So it's big deal now. So in Iowa, a journalist decided to do a piece on him, obviously, because this is a weird story, and does this thing. Well, when he writes about him, this journalist does his job and investigates this guy, looks in his past. Well, this Carson King on his Twitter said some racist shit. I
Oh, of
mean,
course.
I don't think it was like dramatically bad, but it was still racist.
Yeah.
And this guy published this.
Hmm.
Well, when Anheuser read it, Anheuser backed off. They said, "No, we're not going to match it. You're
Right.
racist." Blah blah blah. Everybody stood behind him and were like, "Dude, even if he said this, it was like 10 years old, dude."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Even if this kid said this shit, that was a long time ago. Clearly, he hasn't even been active on Twitter. That's stupid. It's
He was
going
probably 13 when he posted.
right, right." So everybody's just pissed and furious. Anheuser stepped out. So the people of Iowa investigate this journalist for, doing what he did. Guess what was on his Twitter? Racist shit. Not making
Oh,
this
that's
up,
so
dude.
fun.
So the guy gets fired.
Mhm.
Carson King gets, I wouldn't say a pardon, but like met with the governor and whatever, got a bunch of awards and shit. And he donates the money. I don't know if Anheuser-Busch ever did, but I know he donated money, and some super rich guy in the state of Iowa bought him a truckload of beer
Hell yeah.
for an entire year and
That's
gave it
awesome.
to him. Is that
That's
not
badass.
the wildest damn story you've ever heard?
Yeah, man. Everything you say doesn't just go out into the fucking void. You gotta watch what you say online, man.
Right. But I mean, it's in the same, based off the conversation of, delete your Facebook or whatever else social media. It bit this kid in the ass, and it bit the journalists in the ass, and it's
Sure did.
over it. The whole point of me saying it, I think it's dumb that you even have to go that route. That you even have to worry about that, especially, obviously, if you go in Monday and you post Monday night how retarded all your kids are, and then they find out about it that week, yeah, dude, you should be punished for something stupid like that.
Right.
But if it was 10 years ago and you were still growing pubes, what's it matter?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't got nothing racist on there, but it's like things about politics that when I thought I knew how the world worked when I was 15 years old, just a bunch of stupid shit like that that keep on popping up. So if they ever did any digging, I don't know if I'd get hired, obviously, because most educational settings are very liberal, and yeah, gotta delete that.
I think kids are just, they're being forced by society to grow up faster than
Yeah, kids
than
can't just be kids.
Right. And like my son is 9 years old, and when I was his age, I would have been an idiot compared to him. Just for the simple fact, I was more worried about talking to girls and hitting rocks with sticks and skateboarding and rollerblading. I don't know if you remember, but we used to have bikes back in the day where you could lock up the back brake, and we'd have a stupid game of who
Yeah.
could make the longest skid mark.
Skid mark, yeah. Yeah, we would
Kids don't even do that anymore, bro.
go to the all the kids in the neighborhood. We get to the biggest hill in the town, and we'd all bomb it and see who could have the big. Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah.
It was because
And,
the bikes had those. They didn't have hand brakes, but it would brake when you would stop pedaling.
yeah,
Yeah.
backwards. Yeah, dude. And it's like, how many of your buddies had big old flat spots with the little yellow cord
Yeah.
showing?
That's so fun.
Right,
No.
but it's just, if you think about how it is now, man, it's heartbreaking. It really is. They don't know how to. They're so. It all starts with parenting. I
Yeah.
hate to say it like that, but if you don't spend time with your kid and teach them things, they're going to learn it online, and online is
The worst place to learn some things.
Is false for the most part.
Mhm.
So that's Anyways, back to iRacing. Enough of that rant. You're a quick dude for the most part. I mean, I think you're faster than you say you are. I haven't ran with you a ton, but I've ran with you enough to where I think you and I are comfortable around each other.
Yeah.
And that's not saying much because, like I said, we haven't ran together. What is, when you do come in here on whatever nights you decide to race, what's your mindset setting at? Like, all right, it's this track. I know this person's fast. This person's fast. I know I'm going to qualify around this person. And what you need to do, like, what's your thought process and your plan of attack when it comes to joining those sessions?
First, is to, like, in the practice session beforehand when everybody's turning laps, I actually go through and look at everybody's times, not their hot lapping times, but if they run like a stretch 10 laps or longer, looking at their fall off, comparing it to mine, and I'm immediately thinking of like pit strategies, even though stage racing can kind of throw that off for that last stretch. When should I pit? To like undercut the field or to stall and stay out, keep as many cars behind me as possible, stuff like that. But the simpler things, like, I guess that comes after qualifying, really. I would say I have a virtually zero issue with anybody in the league when racing next to them. I've raced enough to where I know how everybody drives here, and I'm able to make my way through the field if I need to. Usually I just do that based on saving tire. If I'm not qualified top 5, I already know it's going to be a tire race because I'm not fast enough in that, first 11, 12 laps when the tires are really good. So I'm immediately saving and trying to pick apart the field that maybe push a little too hard. Pretty much anything under a mile track wise is where I'm expecting to do well at. I suck at plate tracks. 1.5 miles are a crapshoot for me. It depends on if I need to brake or not. Like New Atlanta, that's out the window. Pretty much any track where you actually have to like pay attention to your tires is where I'm expecting to do well at.
I think that's a good assessment because I think it transfers over to everything else for the most part. Plate race probably being the downside to that, and which obviously we both did Thompson's Special Olympics one.
Yeah.
And we were going to win that race.
Yeah, I know.
And we thought we lost you right out of the gate, because
because I lost the draft right away.
Right, so it was a miracle somehow in the end. We all got hooked back up. I mean, thank God you picked me up. Because I was going to pick Nate up, or me and Nate were going to get cycled to the back immediately.
Yeah, as soon as I saw you guys kind of break off from the pack, I just shoved my bumper there, and I was like, "We're going way faster than all these other idiots."
Right.
Not that the other drivers are idiots, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, when you're used to working with somebody, if anybody in that situation was going to get turned after we checked out, it would have been you, based off of me having less seat time than you and Nate combined. I wasn't worried about you spinning, Nate, but you were the middle car. And I was on you because you were on Nate,
Yeah, I got under him.
Right. We were going, and it happens.
Mhm.
It is what it is, but it was fun.
But
I
we
mean, I had a
saved it.
blast. I know.
Brad Dove, you motherfucker. I love Brad. Um, yeah, so man, I can remember that. We should have won that. Well, we should have top 3'd that race. Yeah, we were going into turn 3 and I got under. I was still pushing into the turn and there's a slight hump right before you get into 3 and I hit that hump wrong and got under his like headlight sticker. Turned him ever so sideways. He saved it. I checked up, saved it. You checked up, save it, and then everything else went to shit.
Yeah, I think they would have got around us there, but we were going to the white flag anyways,
Yeah,
and we would
yeah, it
have had
was
another
too
lap
close
to
to the
get.
end.
Yeah, we would have got
Yeah.
back together and it would start pushing. But hey,
Hmm.
man, it's it's unfortunate that it happened because I mean we were about to put on a spectacle, and Church
Oh,
was going to end up dropping behind me and
hmm.
jumping in line too. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 would have been really cool.
Shit, it could have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, Dove could have dropped in too, but Dove decided he wanted to win the
You wanted to
race.
go. You wanted to go fast on the outside.
Well, and it's like, you know what? Like I think my goal, your goal, and Nate's goal was all the same.
Hmm.
We're going to break away from the pack and we're going to check out.
Yep.
After the exit of turn 4, we're not helping no more.
Hmm.
It's just we're all three going drag race for it.
Yeah.
That's the fun part about it. And we didn't get that opportunity,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Next time.
What's who's one of the guys that I mean you look up to the absolute most in the league racing?
In terms of just like cool to be around, or like just getting better at racing.
Getting better.
Well, like I said, yeah. I mean, obviously Nate's cool to be around, but definitely paying attention to what he's doing. Striker's fast. Striker is a really good long run driver, so I pay attention to a lot of his strategy decisions. Even though he says he doesn't think about it, I know he does.
And he has a plan right out of the gate.
Absolutely. Uh, I've actually learned a lot from John. I haven't raced that much with him because we both are randomly busy at random points. He taught me how to be aggressive in the right way, right? John's one of those guys where he's gonna race you hard, but he'll bump you, he'll move you, but he's gonna make it up to you whether, like, how do I explain this? He puts the ball in your court whether something's gonna turn into a wreck or not, right?
Right.
He likes to race people on the edge like that, which is an awesome skill to have. Um, and yeah, and just racing with him has definitely helped me get a bit more aggressive in my passes, but also being able to pass aggressively and cleanly without causing a wreck. But as far as like pure pace, like setting the pace and just being smooth, it's got to be Nate. Nate Biggard's so smooth with the wheel, so smooth with the pedals. Always paying attention to his inputs.
Somebody else to look for that I think is underrated is Jason Day.
Day's
Jason
good.
Day. Jason Day is very, 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 very fast, and he just catches unfortunate events.
He's got the worst luck. So
I've taken him out twice, dude, and I felt horrible about it because it's like my goal was to like one of them was at Chicago, or no, it wasn't Chicago. I can't remember the damn track. It was a road course, but I was like, hey man, I'm gonna break here. You just go around me on this corner, and I hit the grass. The grass turned me, and I mean, he T-boned me full speed. I'm like, oh my god,
no, that was Watkins Glen. I was there.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I felt so bad, dude. I was like, dude, I am so sorry. Well, when I hit the brakes, it pulled me to the right a little bit, and then I hit the grass. And then, I don't know, I got on the apron, and I pushed it farther than I should have. And I hit him, and he saved it, but he took Roberge out. And
Jason Day's a dark horse at short tracks. He's very good. He's so good at short tracks. He's probably the person I learned the most from, actually, like initially when I first joined the league, because when he was racing Xfinity with us, I was always behind his bumper, always trying to get around him. He was always faster than me, and he is like that bar, right? Like if you can't get by Day, you're not getting by anybody else. He is like the bar for everybody. And yeah, like he even though I don't have like that much of a personal relationship with him. I've definitely learned a lot from him just from riding behind him. And yeah, very good driver.
And you saying that you're not, you don't know him well enough, and like John, you haven't ran enough with, and obviously that would be a lack of not being on as often as you want to be or can
Mhm.
be. Do you think that's going to change when when you graduate and you start working to where you can kind of dedicate just a little more time to it?
I think so, especially with weekend racing. I mean, even during the week, because I actually have a stable schedule and I can plan things ahead instead of just winging it like I do every day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know there's a lot of tracks where you just show up last minute and you start going.
There's been a few times where I like buy the track and then we're already qualifying.
Well, you know what's funny about that, because we were on the conversation today. Day does that all the time, dude.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Like, where did we just where did we race? The trucks. He
Mhm.
he literally joined like with 5 minutes left to spare, and he qualifies to like top three, or no, I think he took the pole or he was second or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's like, dude, come on, man.
Like, yeah, it's
He
not
has to
fair.
be sandbagging, dude.
He's
Has to be sandbagging.
Day's really good, especially. I haven't raced with him much in the man. I hate the Cup car. Yeah, anything Xfinity short track. Days very hard to beat.
Well, he's dominating the super lates right now.
Oh, yeah.
Dominating.
I was begging for that series, and I haven't been able to race a single race. I'm damn sure I'm gonna make this Sunday's race. I love it. It's my favorite car.
It's so it, the thing I don't like about, I rather it be on Saturdays, just
Yeah,
because I love watching NASCAR.
yeah,
Love it.
that's fair. I
Do you
mean,
like watching NASCAR?
no, absolutely not.
See how
Uh,
wild is that? You get these iRacers that hate even watching it, and then you have the other half that's just obsessed with it.
see, so I like watching NASCAR when it's at a track that they can race at. So pretty much anything that isn't a super speedway or New Atlanta. Um, but I don't like stage racing. I think that's horseshit. You should have everybody racing from flag to flag because that stage racing takes out so much of pit strategy and it makes everybody just ride around in the first stage, ride around in the second stage, and then they're racing the last 5 laps, and then you have 3 chances to where you're just destroying cars, and I don't like seeing cars get destroyed, even though that's probably like the biggest selling point of NASCAR is the big wrecks.
Yeah, that's well, and that Atlanta race was a joke.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a great
the finish was
finish.
awesome. The whole race sucked though.
Yeah, up till like 10 to go for the stages when they started pushing it, and then they
Mhm.
rode around again. Then they pushed it. It's like, come on, dudes! Like you gotta do better. That, you know what though? That's why I'm such a big Kyle Larson fan, because I don't. How often do you ever see him just taking it easy? Obviously, when you're in Atlanta and you're in 20th place, you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
You're not going to make it 3 wide. You're just going to get freight train. No one's going to help you anyways. But if you watch any other race, dude, if he's in the lead, he'll extend it and
yeah,
extend it and extend it and extend it. It's not until like our last race that he just won. He was managing a gap because he knew Tyler Reddick was faster than he was.
hmm
So he was like, all right, well, I just need to save as much tire as possible, cool him off,
hmm
because I have to race this guy and I have to do everything I can to block him and etc. But if you watch him get up front at like North Wilkesboro, dominated it.
gone. Yeah.
It was an embarrassing race. I don't think he slows down ever.
Mm.
It's just in his DNA. That's not him.
He
I
wants to
don't
go
think
fast.
I don't. I mean, I hate Denny Hamlin, but I don't think once Denny Hamlin's up front, I don't think he's that kind of driver either.
Denny Hamlin is the Nickelback of NASCAR. I don't know why everybody hates him so much,
He's
but
a whiner.
yeah, I mean, fuck, they're all prima donna whiners, man. But shit, even my driver is the one that I crew for. All race car drivers are whiners.
That's probably accurate. I bitched at my best friend a lot I was like, dude, the goddamn car wouldn't turn. I thought you put a better, bigger stagger on the rear end or where. He's like, I did. It's like, well, joke's on me, I guess, because I didn't notice it.
That's so fun. No, the driver crew, he's awesome. If anything, he gets down on himself more than, and he doesn't get down on the guys. He gets down on himself. But yeah, I don't know. All those personalities are kind of the same to me. I guess my favorite driver right now would be Eric Jones, but that's purely because he's a local boy. Like he's from my area, race at my home track, and pretty much watch the kid grow up. Same with Carson Hocevar. I remember when he was racing template cars, like limited late models, but with like a Monte Carlo style body back in 2012. He had like 14-inch pedal extensions. He was 12 years old. Yeah,
Damn,
racing a full-size stock car.
that's awesome.
And now he's like 6'7", racing it
Hit
for
that
in the
growth
Cup
spurt.
Series. Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's, dude, the problem with racing just in general anymore is it's a money game.
Oh my
It's
God.
it's all it is. If you ain't got enough cheddar, you're not going to be competitive. Simple as that.
So to put that into perspective, the driver I crew for last year was his first year owning his own car for the first time since he was like 20 when he first started racing. First started racing stock cars. He raced. He did kart racing first. He got to race against like Danica Patrick and shit like that
Oh,
growing up
that's
when he
cool.
was racing kart racing and stuff. And then got turned on to late models, I think when he was before his 20s. But yeah, it was his first year owning his own car, owns his own trailer, and we made $46,000 in prize money over the summer, and that was pretty much a net zero, just on repairs to the car and upkeep on the car and buying tires, buying fuel, paying
Right.
for pit passes. It's a money pit for sure. And we won one race. We finished in the top 5 at like 6 or 7 different races. Wrecked out probably the same amount, another 5 or 6 races, and didn't make anything.
That's crazy. That you even think like, dude, somebody made 46 grand just racing, and in order to keep racing, to keep making that money, you spent every penny.
Every bit of it.
And
Every bit of it.
that's probably lowballing it. I mean, he probably
Mm.
was still digging in his pockets, for more. That tires, man, tires and fuel is
Yeah, that's
just a
what
headache.
a full set of tires is $700,
Yeah, that's
and they're junk
dude.
after one race.
Yeah, I mean, especially on pavement, dirt, you might be able to get a couple races out of if the situation calls for it. But
Mm.
I know dirt racing. I had fresh virgins on every single time, just because there's so much grip with a new tire.
What car did you drive when you were racing dirt?
So what we had was, they were called outlaw hobby stock. So
Okay.
they were a regular hobby stock car that was
Mm.
completely stock, minus like we could run a G60 Hoosier wheel, we could run like floater rear ends,
Yeah.
um, minor little things,
Yeah. So like wider
But
tires, more
yeah, but the
shock
tires
stuff.
make a big difference,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And,
huge.
the floater rear end, it makes it easier to change your pumpkin out. Why they're not allowed to use quick change rear ends are beyond me. Because you're not ganging anything
No.
other than you could change your rear end gear if you get it wrong, during a heat race or qualifying or whatever. You could change your rear end to get it right. That gives you some adjustability to be competitive during the feature, which is the whole point. And that's what puts on a good show, is guys running wheel to wheel.
Mm. Man, when you mention gear change, it makes me think of crewing on the race season. Every weekend, So the series, his name's Steve Needles, the driver. The series that Needles drives, and it's called the Reveal the Hammer Outlaw Late Model Tour. And it's 5 tracks, I think, between Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, and all of them are half mile, like anywhere between a third of a mile and a half mile. And even though there's that little difference, they got to change gears for each track. And whenever Steve and Doug, his father, forget to change a gear in the garage before the weekend, it's always a huge huge joke. Son of a bitch, we got to change the gears again, and it's just a mess. Hey, yeah, that's always fun to watch them change that thing.
You know, it's funny because a lot of those guys they use the same rear end oil. You
Yeah,
know,
we recycle we recycle the rear end oil also.
dude, I I got OCD really bad.
Hmm.
So if I see any sort of metallic in it, I'm like, nope, it can't be good no more. You know, I can't put metallic from these gears into these gears
Hmm.
type of thing. It, it's one of those things. It's like a I can't think of the right term of what I want to use, but it's like one of those pre-race rituals, like you don't pet a black cat on race day or
Hmm.
whatever. Whatever skeptical illusion somebody has on what not to do or walk under a ladder, you get 7 years bad luck kind of thing. But I couldn't use the same. I couldn't use the same oil.
That's funny.
And,
I
and
always,
every race, I changed my oil. Just that was my thing.
oh yeah, like Jesus with our engine. So the Outlaw Super Late is probably like it's like the top tier of full size stock car racing in like the small short tracks. That and the super late models, you could probably pretty much toss it up. Super late models have a way bigger following, but Outlaws are faster. Um, where was it going? Oil changes. Yeah, I mean new oil every single weekend, all that fun stuff. Because the engines that we're running, like there's some guys that have 1,000 horsepower. Like that, isn't that
So you're
wild?
swapping plugs every
Yeah,
week too. Then
like we blew we blew we blew a motor, and Callum was, well, it was throwing a belt. It kept on throwing the serpentine belt, so we changed uh, the pulleys on there 3 weekends in a row, and finally, I think it was the race. We won a race. We're going to Tech, and we hit a rock, and the rock shot up and put a hole in the oil pan.
no, no.
So when they get back to the shop and they're going through and looking at the block, the whole block was cracked right down the middle. And they had
Hmm.
no idea, and they wouldn't know unless that rock went through the oil pan that we were probably racing on a cracked block for 6 weekends in a row. And that was a good ass motor. That was a Hutter. That was a Hutter engine. That thing was like 800 horsepower.
You know what they say, and anybody in racing knows it is an engine right before it's going to blow runs the best. It's a
Hmm.
fact, man. It's just
Kalamazoo Super Shoe. That's the last race they do a year. It's an outlaw race, but it's a true outlaw race. There's no rules. You can run like the widest tires they have available. You can put like wings on the side of your outlaw car. It's wild. Like they don't. It's a 3/8 mile track, and they're not braking. It's terrifying.
wow.
Um, I can't remember the driver's name, but he had nearly a half a lap lead with 2 to go in his like he was so fast and his motor grenaded on the last lap and couldn't finish the lap.
Yeah, I bet you he was sitting in that car like, man, this thing ain't never ran this good
Yeah,
ever.
he was so fast.
We in our outlaws, we would just run. You're supposed to run a stock 350 with two
Mhm.
barrel carbs, shit like that. Or with IMCA rules, you could run a crate engine. I don't know what the hell GM does to their crate engines, but you got to put 8 grand into an open motor to run as hard as a
Mhm.
crate does. It's it's weird, man. I don't know
Yeah,
what
my
they do to
brother
them, but they run hard.
my brother just spent like 10 grand on a crate engine. He's rebuilt. My dad has his old outlaw chassis. My brother's building it into a limited, and like the only difference between a limited late model and an outlaw is tire width, springs, and engine, and weight too. They make it a bit heavier. Uh, and it's not like the limiteds in iRacing. The late model stock sucks. That car is horrible. Um, but yeah, the money you got to invest in just an engine alone is ridiculous.
And going back to the iRacing factor is when you do get more time, are you going to run more with Chop Shop or do you got loyalty somewhere else?
Uh, So the only series that I'm really like hyper focused on it currently is with ASRC with their super late model division, and that's mainly to do with like I know half of the field in real life. They're all drivers, and I suck compared to them. And I know that I can get way better just by following them around. My first race there, I was lapped within 40 laps
Whew,
at a short track, right?
these guys
Like,
are fast.
they are, I mean, you're talking guys with like 6, 7, 8,000 I rating and, like track champions in real life and shit like that. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I want to race Chop a lot more. I have the most fun racing at Chop just because the guys are fun and it's just really good racing and really respectful racing all around. So definitely try to get here with the super lates a bit more often. Um, Maybe start dabbling in the trucks. I haven't ran the truck that much. It's always been Xfinity, uh, Cup, and short track racing for me. So maybe give the trucks a shot. That's a huge field here too, so that'd be a lot of fun.
Well, and I think uh, we're just growing, man.
Oh,
It's just,
it's getting so big, it's crazy.
I mean, I don't know how, like our super lates, we got smaller field, and I think it's obviously because it's on race day.
Hmm.
The cars are, when you choose like the Gen 4 and the super lates, they're super lates are, I think they're fairly easy to drive
Hmm.
compared to like the Gen 4, which I wish we could do more of,
I love the
honestly,
Gen
because
4.
right, because you learn throttle management. And that's probably the most important tool to learn
Oh yeah.
racing. Period is throttle management.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to see, where we're at in the next, after this year,
Yeah.
just because I think it's going to get to a point where we have to start turning people away, or we have multiple series
Yeah,
of
start
even the
yeah,
same car.
separating classes. Yeah.
Right. It'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd be pretty sweet. I mean, super late model. Yeah, it's easy to drive because it's so good at just going left. But I think it's one of those cars where it's easy to drive, but it's so hard to be fast in. You know, and I think that car is a really good tool of learning how to get fast at short tracks and how to manage the throttle, especially coming off, because it's so easy to snap those things loose on exit if the track's hot enough.
Well, that's the whole goal, is to get the power down.
Yeah. Hmm.
And like the Gen 4s they have a ton of it.
Oh yeah.
And that's why a lot of people, I mean, I guess I don't know why everybody runs trucks, because the trucks don't have the power that they should, and the next gens don't have
Trucks
the
are
power
easy.
that they should. Trucks are easy.
Even though I haven't raced them that much, they're easy to drive. Um, they're forgiving. No car is easy to win in, right? But the most forgiving of the NASCAR series cars is definitely the truck.
Well, I think what, especially like, let's just use Stryker as an example. I think what makes him fast in the trucks is the reason he's fast in the next gens is because he's so used to throttle management on a fast vehicle.
Hmm.
You drop him down to a slow vehicle, he can keep that thing pegged longer than anybody else, because he's used, it's dramatically slower to him.
Yeah.
So he knows how to manipulate the truck better than even I do, or anybody else for that matter. When it comes to, like Charlotte, I lift a lot in 3 and 4, so my exit on 4 is good. I bet you he could probably stay in the throttle 40% longer than I can,
Hmm.
which is a lot.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a lot.
I mean, and Nate's, I wouldn't even say that's Nate's thing. Honestly, I would say Nate's thing is he's smooth. He's
Oh,
so smooth.
he does no wasted inputs. He's not sawing at the wheel.
That's me, by the way.
Just saw it away.
Yeah. My arms hurt afterwards half the time.
Man, I do my best to not do that at all. Mainly because I am not good at wheeling it, and I lose my rear end pretty easily when I start sawing away. But also because being smooth on your inputs just makes your car last way longer.
So you being, in the 2000s iRating, what's the advice you give to somebody that's not there yet, that's working toward that goal?
Stop not qualifying and actually race around the people that are as fast as you. and try to get by them and follow the fast guys ahead of you. It's really that simple. Like if you just hang around in the back all the time and just wait for people to wreck out of your way to gain your I rating, one, you're not learning anything. And then as soon as you get into the next split, you're not even going to be fast enough to get by the guys that are getting wrecked. So just go, just race, man, and try to
So,
learn from everybody in front of you.
so do you think those guys that are starting in the back are being too conservative to the point to where they're almost building patterns of their drive style to be slow?
Yeah, 100%. And I say that because that's what I did, right? Like when I looked up on Reddit how to get to A license fast as possible, it's just said don't qualify, ride in the back, and pass everybody that wrecks. And then when I got here, I quickly learned that I'm slow and I need to figure something out.
Right.
And definitely spending way more time in the lower division cars. Like the the street stock is great at teaching you how to like handle body roll and weight shifting on the car and how to maintain speed center a corner with a car that's really heavy that doesn't want to turn. And
Yeah.
then the super late is really good at teaching you how to get the power down on exit without snapping the car loose. And if you can master those two things, by the time you get to the trucks, you're going to be winning every single race you're in until you get to the 2000s when everybody seems like to know what they're doing. And from there, it's just seat time. Like everybody else says, just spending time in the sim to get faster.
Well, and you gotta get used to your equipment too.
Yeah.
I mean, everything acts weird, and I stopped. I finally, it took me a while to take everybody's advice, but I stopped, messing with my settings and just you deal with what you got type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a lot of people, that's one of my regrets too. I wish I would have just raced the officials the way I raced them. Even if I'd still be D class today or C
Right.
class today, eventually it would transfer over, on from league racing over to your officials and it did for me. When I was in B class, I wasn't that good and I was racing over here and then I was winning races under B class and then I went to A and then it's just I do good at A. It's just my I rating plummeted because I tried the NASCAR series Daytona 500 like four
Yeah.
times, like an idiot.
Yeah. If I have a big like I rating dip, I don't race another race after that. Not because I want to keep my I rating up. It's because I know that I'm going to go into that next race pissed and probably do the exact same shit and get involved in something else that's stupid. So
Yeah,
every time
and
something like that
emotions.
happens, oh yeah.
Yeah, your emotions play a factor in it.
Hmm.
Especially, I did want to touch base because you keep your cool really well. Like even when you get taken out, you might be
Hmm.
like, "God damn it, you bastard!"
Hmm.
And it's like you're not really being mean. You're just saying it out of like a slight frustration. But I don't ever see you really lose your temper.
Yeah. I guess that's just my natural temperament, anyways. I don't like being angry. And it's at the end of the day, I know some people are like, this is a simulator. It's still a game to me, right? Like it's something that's just supposed to be fun to me. Do I want to be good at it? Fuck yeah, I do. But also, shit happens. At the end of the day, it's just a game, and other shit's more important. So why get worked up over it, and why ruin, you know, friendships with the people that I've met here over something as stupid as getting dumped in a race when they probably didn't even do it on purpose, anyways.
Right. Well, and I mean, I think it's good to have rivalries.
Mm.
I mean, I think that brings more. It has. What's the best way to explain? It has to be a clean rivalry. I guess the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Like I would say, in a weird way, me and John sort of have a rivalry because I'm always trying to beat him, and he's for the most part beating me.
Hmm.
But it's not like we're going to throw knives at each other kind of thing. It's fun, and I want people to be like, I want different people to have those, and I want people to be like, like I love watching Nate and Stryker go at it.
Oh yeah.
I enjoy watching it myself, and I'm in the race myself. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
on.
You'll just be riding behind him like, damn, this is a good ass race.
Right, like because I'm a fan of the sport. I'm a fan of
Mm,
these guys. So I wish more people would have that mentality when they're in it, because it opens up your eyes, and you enjoy it more,
yeah.
to where you
There.
don't want to quit even when you have a bad. You know how many races I've got taken out of, and I still sat in there watching the show.
Mhm. Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Every time if I ever get taken out and where I try to stay out and at least be in the field even if I'm laps down, but if like the car is completely dusted, I'll still just switch over to the stream and just watch the stream anyways and see how the guys do. But it's funny you bring up rivalries. Uh there's two guys that I would consider rivals that probably, well, one might, but both of them probably have no idea that I look at them that way. One kind of started out as like Jeremiah Burke. I ruined his race at, I think it was Daytona in the Gen 4. Daytona or Talladega. I was riding up, I led like half the race, and he was behind me, so was Michael Coulter. Whole race, we're all racing each other, swapping positions for lead and stuff like that. And then we get like a late restart to finish the race, and it wasn't on purpose. It really looked like it was on purpose, but I drove right through him on the restart and destroyed his car. And he was probably going to win it because I think it was two to go. We were entering one. I never lifted. I just picked up his rear end and sent him into the wall. And then I sent him like a ton of apology messages and stuff like that afterwards because it was like the dumbest thing I've ever done. Um, But the next week we're racing again, and during practice he did the same shit back to me, but while we were practicing, and I was like, I couldn't tell if he was still obviously he was probably still mad at me, but like I couldn't tell if he was like setting the tone from now on, like, hey, you better make sure I'm not behind you anymore. It didn't
I
turn
didn't
into that.
I didn't forget this happened.
Yeah, yeah. And so whenever I mean, we're still cool. Like we talk and joke with each other and stuff like that. But whenever I'm racing next to him, I always have that in the back of my head. I'm like, is it my time yet where he's going to send me?
Has he let this go?
Yeah, he hasn't sent me yet. So I'm still waiting for my day. He owes me one for sure. Um, and then
Burke's
another
a good
one,
dude, man.
I like, yeah, Burke's great.
I don't think he's that kind of dude. If he's going to, he's going to tell you.
Oh, yeah, probably. But yeah, so he's always fun. He's fast too. And the other one, the reason why I say you wouldn't know it is because I don't really talk to him at all. But it was Robert Dudley. Uh, especially in the Cup Series, I always found myself door to door with him in every single race we were ever in. And he's another one of those guys like Hammond, where he's going to put it up to you whether or not this is going to turn into a wreck. So I like either you back off and give him the space, or you keep fighting it out, and one of you is going to lose out, right? And yeah, so he's another name of a guy that I would think of kind of like as a rival, not in a bad way, but someone that like when I'm racing with him, like I'm paying way more attention to what the hell's going on
Right.
around me, and I'm way more locked in, and that's what makes it fun, right? Because it is competitive in the end.
I think the way I would look at it is like almost a skill set based to a degree. Like mine, like if I had to pick two rivals, it would be Chris Roberge,
Love him.
because he's fast, dude. He
Oh,
knows how to
he's
get through the traffic,
hmm,
and I find myself around him a lot. And Hammond is dramatically faster than me. I'm not
hmm,
taking anything away from him when I said a skill based thing, but when he's having one of those off days, is he's still fast.
hmm,
He's just not up front fast. He's top 10 fast,
right,
and that's when I find myself around him. Um, and I enjoy racing around those guys because I learned so much.
right,
I mean, so much, and I try to emulate a lot of their driving styles and kind of critique them to where they work for me.
hmm,
There's long story short, there's a lot of good dudes in here, and I think I speak for a lot of people. Like, we would like to see you in, you know, more of our races. Obviously, school's priority, work's
hmm,
priority. Um, You don't have an old lady, do you?
No, no, I'm not even going to worry about that until I got my own
Smart man.
place. Yeah.
Smart man.
Oh, one thing real quick. Going back to what I said earlier about like getting better, like don't ride in the back, all that fun
Yeah.
stuff. Chris is the only exception to that rule. Chris Roberge starts in the back of every single race, and he does it with a goal to get that
Biggest
award.
mover.
Biggest
Yeah.
mover.
He's so, dude. He's had some bad luck
He
in the last
has
few
lately.
nights.
Yeah.
He got wrecked out. He he wrecked himself in where were we? The Milwaukee Mile.
Mm-hmm.
He hit TJ. His truck probably would have been drivable afterwards, but I smoked him in the middle of that. To where, I mean, if you watch the replay, I couldn't have responded fast enough.
Right.
It was just one of those things. And then he did Signatures event, got taken out there last night.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, dude, he's on. He's got some bad juju going on him
he's in a
right now,
slump
man.
now, but he wins a lot. He's one of those guys where he's either finishing last or he's finishing first, right? Like
Yeah.
he doesn't wait for the race to settle in. He's as soon as the race starts, he's moving up to the front.
Did you watch his podcast?
I did not. I should.
Dude, this guy, just in layman's terms, I don't know if you've seen even the picture. He was on the cover of ESPN. He has a learning disability,
Mm-hmm.
so he did a lot of Special Olympic events. But he was over in Athens, Greece, for the Special Olympic softball team.
That's awesome.
Like, dude, he has gold medals.
No,
and this shit.
That's
I mean,
yeah, that's wild. I didn't even know that.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, dude, you are, Jason over at Signature Esports, like, oh, it's the nicest Canadian you can ever meet. I don't know if he's the nicest. I mean, there could be somewhere nicer. That's not a jab at your Robers, but I can tell you what, he's the most interesting, 100%.
I love Robert. He's such a good one. He's just a good dude to talk to. He's so open and respectful to everybody. He's so easy to talk to. Super nice guy, and he's so funny. Like
Oh, dude.
he's just because I don't know. He kind of keeps everybody in check, and it's always like entertaining. Like especially if the guys are getting at to each other a little bit too hard, Chris will chime in and let them all know they're being a bunch of idiots.
You know who else does that everybody loves is Culver.
Oh, I love Jerry. Love me some Jerry.
I mean, but Jerry doesn't sugarcoat it.
Oh no.
There's no sprinkles on the muffin when he delivers it.
You know how many times he's called me a fucking retard?
Just hey, man, it's like I said, man, it's cool to put a voice to the face. I'm sure everybody will agree, and to know that it's you again, you draw a picture of people after talking with them until you actually get to know. No one, I guarantee you, nobody in their mind thought you were going to be a teacher. No one.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably like
Especially
one or two people I've told, but besides
That's
that,
right.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. They're like, oh, hey, you might mess around a lot, but you're not a stupid person.
yeah. Oh, I play the fool pretty well. I'm an honors student, guys. I don't know if you know that, but I'm gonna graduate with honors here.
That's awesome, dude. See, you'll be one of them cats speaking, at graduation seminars and whatnot.
Oh, that'd be so fun. That'd be cool.
I love watching, not celebrities, but there's a guy, I can't remember, but he had this speech about a simple cook. And long story short, his dad was a third grade dropout,
Mhm.
and he was the smartest human being that he ever learned from. So it was cool because we were he was speaking to a bunch of alumni, and it was an education based event.
Mhm.
And he's sitting here talking about the smartest person that he ever learned anything from was somebody that dropped out
Yeah, right.
and taught him. So the school it's a weird thing that only experience would teach you what to listen to and what not to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously if you work for a school district, you have a curriculum that you have to follow. You don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And how you spend to educate that that curriculum is your job, obviously, as a teacher. But then you gotta. It's a fine line, dude, that you're walking
It's gonna be
into.
fun. I'm sure I'll be in trouble more than once.
We had my history teacher. His name was Martin Duffy, coolest dude in the world, and he let us watch videos all the time, which is why everybody loved him because we
Right.
were always, we were watching Saving Private Ryan and all the cool videos. But you would be amazed at how much he was actually teaching us during that
Mhm.
time, and nobody knew it. He'd be like, "Oh, we're going to I want you to write a story or a little essay," because he almost never did tests.
Mhm.
But he's like, "I just want you to write a story about the movie that we just watched and what you learned from a history standpoint on it, whether it's real or not, it's irrelevant.
Right.
What did you learn from both sides of it?" And he would read these papers, and he would write a paper for every single student explaining, like, you misunderstood what this part was. This is what it actually meant, but your thought process behind it was on the right track, type of thing.
Mhm.
And then, at the end of the year, he had to do some sort of test or whatever. And his fail rate was almost zero.
Yeah, it's because he taught you like that's a teaching style that I kind of want to follow. Is kind of like you're teaching the kids not information, you're teaching them how to learn, right, and how to get
Right.
information on their own and to understand like the nuanced ways that they can best study or remember things. And I think that's really cool that you had a teacher that was able to do that for you guys.
Yeah. And I don't know. I know there's different teaching styles, but I'm not in the field to where I don't know exactly, especially looking back at now. You're just sitting here like, man, why why did he do this and why did I learn it because
Hmm.
he did it this way versus I had teachers that were just right out of the book. I didn't learn
Yeah,
a goddamn
not
thing
a
from.
fucking thing. Nope.
Right. And it's weird because here's a good one for you. Algebra, geometry,
Hmm.
um, physics. I took a lot of the, I mean, geometry and algebra for sure in high school. Didn't learn anything. Never understood why there was letters in math. Never understood that at all. But when I went to college and I took a physics class on, it was for like heating and cooling, diesel mechanics,
Yeah,
stuff like that. When you learn that, um, it's hard to
I know what
explain.
you're trying to say. It's taking something that means nothing to you, right? Like has no basis for anything going on around you, but all of a sudden you're put in this situation. Now you got to apply it and make something
Right.
work out of it. Yeah.
So
It's,
when my college professor was like, she dumbed it down, dude, which was awesome, and especially for people that didn't carry that from high school. Obviously,
mm,
when she's like, "Hey, let's just use an easy one, miles per hour," right?
mm,
When you're starting to talk about miles per hour, that alone by itself will tell you, like, okay, if you're going this fast over this amount of time, this is the distance that you're going to travel.
mm,
When you start implementing it in like that, algebra makes sense immediately after that. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
Why for some whatever reason are and maybe I was just too dumb, dude. I don't know. Now that I think about it, I'm like, shit, maybe I didn't understand what the person was saying until college, unfortunately.
Mm.
But during high school, dude, it didn't make any sense.
I mean, I failed algebra. I failed algebra 3 times in high school.
Do you
I
think it's because they're just like A plus B equals C versus saying like uh a speed over a truck over a distance equals, overall time?
I guess it could have something to do with that, just to keep me interested. I think it was just the lack of interest completely just made me bad at it because I wouldn't because math is one of those things you got to practice, right? And if you don't
Right.
practice, you're never going to get good at it. And since I already didn't like the subject, I never cared enough to do any of the homework or nothing. So by the time test time rolled around, I was getting like 30% on everything.
Well,
I
it's
almost didn't graduate because of my. I had to do a summer class and for algebra just to graduate on time.
Well, the thing that irritates me is the more you think about algebra is probably the number one mathematical equation you use on a regular basis every single day.
Oh yeah, it's in everything that you do. It's so funny to think about that.
And no one knows it.
Mm-mm.
It until you analyze it. Like Stryker's an analyzing person, so he thinks the same way. But for people that don't get it, I would say for people that say they don't get it, they're not looking at it through the right lens.
Right.
When you set an alarm for work, you're calculating how long it's going to take you to wake up out of bed, put your clothes on, get breakfast, brush your teeth, whatever. Your drive time, then to the car. That is algebra. You're
Yeah.
sectoring different time frames for an overall time. That's exactly what algebra is.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy?
And dude, this is how I think. I think about the dumbest shit all the time.
And
And
that
I'm
makes
sitting
you
here.
that makes you a good podcast host when you think of dumb
I
shit.
get, I guess, bro.
Because you
But
always get things to talk about.
right. Well, and so my best friend is phenomenal with numbers, and I am too. But
Mm.
until I realized how I realized things, I thought I was just stupid. Like,
Mm.
oh, men are supposed to be good with numbers, and I wasn't until I ran a trucking company. Dude, that's all you do.
Hmm.
I do sales quotes now. That's all I do. So it's like, dude, I looked at it through the wrong lens.
If you try to
The
teach a
whole
fish how to climb a tree, it's going to think it's stupid its whole life.
that's a horrible example, but I like it because the tree and the fish have nothing in
Yep.
common. No, it's dude. I would if you would have asked me before we did this podcast if I wanted to talk about education, I would have told you to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. But when you get to talk about education from a fantasy type of aspect, I guess,
Hmm.
or just an outside aspect instead of being brass bones in it, it makes for an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's always a fun topic. And it's a heated one too. That's probably like
Well, and
the
it's
second most heated topic out there is education.
I mean, so I mean, we've been on it and off
Oh
of it
yeah.
the whole podcast.
Oh yeah.
I don't. It's hard because I'm putting myself in your shoes,
Hmm.
trying to like, man, what would I do in this situation? So I got to ask, like, what would you do in this situation? Like, I don't. It's such a slippery slope on something that you are 1,000% positive on that could have two different answers for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Which is by itself extremely interesting. Because you and another teacher that teaches history could be in disagreement about 90% of it, but the basis on what exact topic you're teaching, there's only one line there. There's only one lane in that road of World War I happened.
Right.
So and so won.
Hmm.
But there's going to be two very different paths on getting to the end of that with different paths in between. All it's a huge tree.
Yeah.
You
And that's
know,
why it's all called theory, right? Like
right?
everything we study in history, it's all theory. It's all like none of us were there. We take whatever
Yeah.
pieces we can from it and try to come up with the best theory possible for how things happened, but we do not know exactly how everything goes down.
Which is interesting because, like, you can use. Let's just use the most famous document of all time, Declaration of Independence.
Mhm.
We all know what it says. We all know what it means. What we don't know is how they came up with it.
Right.
I mean, no one was in the room when they were having the conversation on how to write it down and the outcome to it and the exact meaning of why they wrote it down.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is a big problem that we're having nowadays because they're like, oh, dudes in the 1700s wrote this down.
Hmm.
It wasn't built to withstand as long as it has. Well, that's one interpretation of it,
Right.
because anybody else could have like, no, it was concrete.
This is it. Yeah.
It's like the 10 Commandments, right?
Mhm.
So it's interesting to be able to hear other people's opinions on, especially a soon to be educator.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, like you always say, it's that fine line where you're pretty much just walking on eggshells with everything that you say. Um, but I think a good teacher always does their best to give more than one answer, give more than one rational side to things, even if it's something that you don't agree with at all, to still be able to rationalize it and create that idea. And where am I going with this? I'm using all these words. No, but like being able to like rationalize two points of views without it being such a horrible inner struggle that you can't do it without being a complete dick about it, right? Like that's the biggest battle with being a teacher.
Well, and I mean, giving not even just kids, anybody, uh, it's like giving you a second outlook. Like, hey, man, yeah, if I think the best color in the world is teal, and you think it's red,
Mm,
you can give me insight on why you think it's red, and I can give you insight on why I think it's teal, and we can give that person another version of forming a whether or not they keep the same decision or change the same decision.
yeah,
So, I mean,
you're
we're
starting to
getting
sound
so
like you're sounding like a professor. That's called what you just described is called communal learning.
brother. Here's one thing. I'm good at playing dumb too. Well, dude, here's what one thing I've learned in life, and I think everybody needs to know this, and I don't agree with it, but it's how it is you have to know how to play the game of life. If you were to go to a job interview and you're like, I want $17 an hour, but they were willing to pay you 22, you just played yourself
Mm,
1,000%. So you have to play dumb and let people come up with their own assessment that works in your favor.
right. Mm-hmm.
That's psychology.
Yeah, because really, when you go in there and they're trying to hire you, you're thinking these are the dumbest people I've ever been around in my
Exactly.
life.
Well, and I think that you saying that, I think that comes to a different IQ standpoint.
Mm.
There are a lot of stupid, smart people out there.
Some of the dumbest people I've ever met have been at college.
And I don't want this to come off wrong, but I will give you a great example. Brian Rayburn. He's made a lot of dumb decisions in life.
That's your
We're not
cousin,
getting
right?
No, Rayburn's just an old school cat
Oh.
here. But he is stupid smart. Like, dude, he built his own rig.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, those
took his
pictures.
pedals out of an arcade. Yeah, dude. I mean, mind blown. Because I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, mechanically, I probably could. But when it comes to, like, programming it, making sure... Dude, one of the smartest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. But it's kind of like a Steve Jobs thing, you know? Steve Jobs was super intelligent. But if you were to talk to him about women... Not a chance, brother. Not a chance. That's what So, Rayburn, anybody else watching it that... It's not, brother, I just used you as an example, man. You are a fantastic person. Don't take it the wrong way.
Dummy.
But I think a lot of people that think outside the box and is always looking 50 steps ahead, kind of like in chess, those are the people that they walk around knowing everybody's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's a weird. I don't put myself in that category.
I try. Yeah,
I feel like that sometimes.
I try not to. Also, I like to think of it more as like I'm dumb too, but I know I'm dumb, and that makes me smarter than everybody else.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like, dude, it's again back with the politics. You're just sitting here like, huh?
Yeah.
What? You know, the bet here, dude. I gotta throw this one out there. Last deal on the politics thing, but I made my wife watch one of the State of Union addresses by Trump, and I was like, watch what happens afterwards. Watch the State of the Union address, then watch what the media says about it. And she's like, okay. So he talked and did his thing and was talking about the oil pipeline and blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
The media's like, Trump wants to give Alaska away to Russia. And my wife was like, what the fuck? He never even said anything remotely near that. I'm like, this is the problem that we're having is people that are misinformed,
Mm-hmm.
that they hate somebody so much they don't even want to listen to what that person has to say. And some of the best advice you'll ever get from anybody is from the person you don't want to listen to. Guaranteed.
100%, because they're going to tell you what you don't want to hear.
Exactly. And 9 times out of 10, it's just because it's a different opinion than what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate it when John corrects me, dude. I hate it. But John is he's extremely smart. He's a very intelligent person. But watching him build a computer, that's just a difference in strengths and weaknesses. But he might not want to hear it from me, but he does because he knows,
Right.
and vice versa for me. Like, I don't want to hear how to put points and we're putting numbers in a block. But there's a certain way to do it to where it makes more sense and it works better.
Right.
Same sense. So you're on a slippery slope, my friend.
All the time. All the time.
You like being on the edge, don't you?
Yeah, it keeps life interesting.
Well, brother, we're 2 hours into it. I think
All
we
right.
covered as much as we possibly could. I always take the end. I got to go through our sponsors. We couldn't do any of this without any of them, obviously, so we always have to give kudos. C2 Gaming, My Three Sons, Track Racer, Baller Stats Boys, Speedy Trophies, Admin Box, Geomax, Virtual Velocity Racing, MCI Graphics, Stay Tuned Sports. They do a podcast now, too, or Jimbo does a podcast, all sports related. He talks about anything and everything, gives his opinion. They're our Pole Cup sponsor. We're supposed to be doing a podcast on his platform, which will be interesting, I think, because we're different breeds of dudes over here, I think. And everybody else that that donates, all the admins that put in the work, all the drivers that show up, guys like you, Caleb, that show up to do the podcast and show their support. I mean, it's valued. Who do you want to thank?
Ooh. I guess first off, you for the excellent conversation. This is a lot of fun. We got into a lot deeper things than I thought we would, which made it a lot more interesting. And Chop Shop, I mean, the opportunity here has been awesome. And these guys the admins put in so much work to keep the racing at such an excellent quality that it already has been. And yeah, I guess that's it. Just you and Chop, man. You guys keep on grinding and doing it up.
Dude, it's gonna be interesting to see where this grows. I love watching people grow as individuals. So it'll be cool to see, when you finally get your last 3 semesters taken care of.
Oh yeah.
You get out in the world and you're making way more money than you're making now, and you show up more. I mean, it'll be fun to run with you some more, dude. I mean, I enjoy everybody. I enjoy, intelligent conversations as well as stupid, jokingly conversations. Yeah. So I'm glad we can mix both of them in here today.
Oh, of course.
And we'll see you on the track, brother. Yeah, man, that's it. That's all I got.
This Sunday.
Sunday. You're gonna be there?
We're coming.
All right. Caleb Modzeleski, right?
Yep.
Caleb Modzeleski, everybody. Make sure you hit him up and tell him how stupid he is for becoming a teacher and not to mess up your kid's education. All right. See you guys later.